The biggest mistake I see over and over again when parents or teachers are trying to improve handwriting is really digging down into more practice, more practice, more practice. The problem with focusing on more practice is that many times the practice is actually reinforcing the wrong way, right? If your child's executive functioning skills are really taxed, if their attention is really struggling, if their working memory is really struggling, if we continue to practice the same way and the same things, we really aren't addressing what's happening underneath. And this is where I see the frustration happen for the parents and the kids, because all of these good efforts, which make sense, it's not that they don't make sense, it's just that we're missing a piece. I'm Nicole Santa Maria, your pediatric occupational therapist, and I'm going to show you what we can do so we don't overload those executive functioning skills and actually help your child with their handwriting. So why the most common thing I see we all go to is more worksheets or a workbook, right? And the reason that doesn't have the results we think is because sometimes the workbooks, most of the time, the workbooks don't include all of the pieces, right? They usually include letter formation, and then they go into copying, and then they go into independent writing, and then we're writing sentences, and we're not really stopping to master the underlying skills, which in handwriting, we need to look at accuracy, we need to look at letter size, we need to look at spacing, and then we need to put it all together with our executive functioning skills of working memory, attention, task initiation, regulation, so that we can write in the functional world, right? Not too fast, not too slow. What happens when I see the workbooks and the worksheets being done? Number one, the kiddo already doesn't want to do them because they already did pre-K, right? So they do the worksheets and then the handwriting doesn't get better. This builds like a mismatch and like a mistrust. The adults in my world are trying to help me, but what they're giving me to help me isn't working. It also really increases that cognitive load because it's really hard to be practiced and it's boring and it's not purposeful, right? So things that actually build that functional handwriting are working on speed, right? Working on handwriting practice without worrying about spelling. So sometimes the handwriting skills should be really easy, right? Remember, we're trying to decrease that cognitive load. And sometimes we are looking at too many things at the same time. So really focusing on one thing. If you're working on spacing and you guys are doing a handwriting session or a practice session about spacing or vocabulary words, just throw in, hey, remember to leave spacing between each of your words. And that way the cognitive load is a little bit less and your child has more chance of succeeding with their handwriting requirements. I also see trying to have that pep talk with the kiddo about trying harder and paying more attention really backfire, because remember, we know that these are executive functioning skills that happen underneath what we see for handwriting, right? So we're telling our kiddo to try harder. They're probably already trying harder than I bet any other kid in their classroom, or at least any kid on their table. They just can't get it, right? So it again feeds into that mistrust system. So sometimes it leaves the parents thinking, oh, the child is doing this on purpose, or they're being lazy, or they could do it if they tried. So that's something I really encourage families to steer away from. I prefer that we tell the kids, we're looking at their efforts, hey, it looks like you really tried. Or having the child stop and look at it and be like, hey, what things could you have done differently so that it's easier for me to read, right? And then giving that child's executive functioning skills the chance to bubble up the correct answers. What I really want parents to walk away with is that handwriting doesn't get better by doing more practice. It doesn't get better by having these, heart-to-heart pep talks. It really needs to be strategic, and we really need to decrease that cognitive load that comes from struggling executive functioning skills when they are writing, and so that way we can build some wins in for them, right? And then at the same time, we need to work behind the scenes and work on that regulation, work on that working memory, the attention, the task initiation, so that whatever effort we put into improving handwriting really makes a difference, right? So in my reset guide, we're doing just this. We're resetting all the things we've tried before. we're understanding why fine motor skills don't work, and really setting us up to reset and help our kids with handwriting in a way that incorporates these executive functioning skills, the fluency, so that their handwriting can get better. But one thing that's really important is that we don't want to keep overloading them and asking them to do things that their executive functioning skills just cannot support, right? So my next video is going to dive in how to support handwriting without overloading these executive functioning skills, right? That's going to make a huge difference in how we show up for our kids and how they can start overcoming and reset so they can have better handwriting.